Alien girl misread the human's warm touch. Her gentle correction later made the moment tender. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's return to our main character Ethan Miles as the emergency lights flickered along the steel corridor, each pulse casting a cold red sheen across the drifting haze that hung in the air like frozen breath. The station had taken a hit. Nothing explosive, nothing violent, but enough to rattle every pipe and conduit until the whole place groaned like an old ship in winter. Ethan's boots thudded softly with each step, echoing down the narrowed passage. His visor readout showed pressure fluctuations, temperature dropping fast, and a faint trace of ozone drifting from an overloaded relay. He could feel the bite of cold starting to creep through the seams of his maintenance suit, the kind of cold that made the fingertips sting before they went numb. He pushed forward, breath steady, scanning for anyone stranded in the corridor. That was when he saw her, Saren, half-crouched near the junction hatch, her cerulean skin dimmed to a muted frost blue under the failing lights. A thin swirl of vapor rose from her shoulders where the cold had begun to clamp down on her species' higher resting body temperature. Ethan hurried closer, instinct kicking in faster than thought. "Hey, are you all right?" he asked, his voice low, steady, the way he spoke to microfractures in engine conduits. She didn't answer, only breathed shallowly, her silver eyes unfocused. He reached out, placing 2 fingers lightly against the upper curve of her shoulder, checking for temperature the way he'd done 1,000 times with human crew. Just a simple touch meant to reassure and assess. But the moment his fingers met her skin, Saren tensed like a pulled wire. Her breath caught in her throat, a soft hitch he almost missed beneath the hum of emergency power. She looked at his hand as if it carried a meaning he didn't understand. Ethan felt her shiver beneath his touch, not from pain, not from fear, just something he couldn't read. "You're freezing," he murmured, lifting his other hand toward the control panel beside her, trying to shield her from the cold draft that swept the corridor. The station lights flickered again, and the floor trembled with a muffled groan from deep within the structure. He steadied her as gently as he could, feeling the warmth of his glove pressed against her chilled skin. She blinked up at him, silver eyes sharpening slightly, focusing on the closeness of their bodies, on the warmth radiating through the thin layer of fabric. Ethan didn't notice the misunderstanding forming behind her stare. He only felt the cold deepening, the air thinning, and the urgency rising. "We need to get you inside," he said softly. "Come on, Saren. Stay with me." For a moment, she didn't move. She only watched him, as if trying to decipher a message hidden in the warmth of his hand. Then she allowed him to guide her toward the nearest pressure door, her steps slow, her breath visible in faint drifting clouds as the corridor dimmed behind them like a lantern fading in the wind. The pressure door slid shut behind Ethan with a soft hydraulic sigh, sealing out the cold draft that had chased them through the corridor. Inside the compartment, the lights glowed a softer amber, warmer than the corridor's harsh emergency red. The air here held a faint hum from the environmental stabilizers, a steady rhythm like a heartbeat that grounded the space. Saren steadied herself against the wall, her breath soft and thin, a curling mist that drifted in front of her lips before fading. Ethan kept one hand close, not touching her this time, just staying near enough that she could lean if she needed to. His suit's thermal layers still held traces of warmth from the sprint, and he could feel it radiating into the small room. "Take a moment," he murmured. "Your system should adjust. It is warmer in here." Saren closed her eyes briefly, as if testing the air on her skin. Her species took longer to stabilize after sudden temperature drops, and he knew that. But he also knew she was proud, distant in a way that made him step more gently. She opened her eyes and looked at him, those silver irises reflecting the amber light like polished metal. "You reacted quickly," she said softly. Her voice had a delicate cadence, each word careful, shaped with intent. Humans move with surprising certainty. Ethan shrugged, rubbing the cold from his fingers. "I saw someone in trouble." He hesitated, glancing at her again. Anyone would have done the same. She tilted her head slightly, an expression that meant more than he understood. Not anyone. Her tone held no accusation, only observation, as if she were cataloging something new. A gentle vibration shuddered through the floor, followed by a soft chime from the console beside them. Ethan checked the screen. Pressure is stable. Temperature is climbing. We should be safe here for now. Saren watched him work, her gaze drifting from his hands to the scanner's display, then back to his face. Earlier, she said quietly, your touch was unexpected. Ethan froze for a heartbeat. He did not meet her eyes immediately. I was checking your temperature. That is all. I did not mean to make you uncomfortable. She seemed to consider that explanation, her brows narrowing in concentration. In my culture, placing a hand on the upper shoulder is significant. Her voice softened even more, almost a whisper. It can mean things you did not intend. Ethan felt heat rise to his face, subtle but unmistakable. Thank you for telling me. I did not know. You meant no message? She asked. There was no judgment, only curiosity. No message, he said. Just making sure you were okay. Saren absorbed this, standing still for a moment as though aligning a new truth inside herself. Then she exhaled slowly, the tension in her shoulders easing. Humans use warmth differently than my people do, she murmured. Ethan nodded. Maybe, but warmth is still warmth. The lights flickered again, but this time it was only a brief dip, not the sharp warning of failure. Saren steadied herself with a hand against the wall, then let her gaze return to Ethan. I misread you, she admitted. But I understand better now. Her tone carried no embarrassment, only clarity. Ethan finally allowed himself to breathe a little easier. We are all learning out here, he said. Every one of us. For a moment, neither spoke. The room's quiet hum filled the space between them, warm and steady. And in that stillness, something unspoken settled gently into place, lighter than the cold they had escaped, warmer than the lights above them. The warmth inside the small compartment held steady as Ethan checked the status readouts one more time. The numbers were climbing toward normal, slow but consistent, and the quiet thrum of the stabilizers settled into a softer rhythm that made the room feel less like a shelter and more like a pause in time. Saren stood a few feet away, her breathing steadier now, the faint shimmer under her skin returning with the ambient heat. The cerulean tone looked less muted, more alive. She watched Ethan with a focus that felt almost physical, as if she were tracing the shape of his intention rather than his appearance. Ethan adjusted the collar of his suit, shaking off the last bit of cold clinging to his neck. The systems should hold, he said, keeping his tone gentle. When the corridors warm up, we can move to a safer bay. She nodded slowly, absorbing the words not just through meaning but through presence. You speak calmly in uncertain moments, she murmured. It is unusual, at least compared to what I have seen. Just a habit, he replied. Machines do not like panic. They respond better to steady hands. And people? She asked. Ethan hesitated, then offered a small, almost self-conscious smile. People probably do too. Saren considered this, her silver eyes reflecting a soft gleam. The room hummed, and a faint pulse of warm air brushed past them from the vent above. She stepped lightly, pacing a slow semicircle as she gathered her balance, fingertips trailing against the smooth wall. I keep thinking about earlier, she said. There was no accusation in her tone, only curiosity. Your touch, it surprised me. It carried a warmth I am not accustomed to. It felt intentional, even though it was not. Ethan let out a quiet breath. I really was just checking your temperature. I was worried you were going into shock. And humans do that? She asked. Reach without hesitation? When someone needs help, he answered. Yes. She stopped in front of him, studying him in the warm glow. The distance between them was small, not uncomfortable, just close enough that he could feel the subtle difference in the air around her, as if her body carried its own quiet aura of heat and light. My species does not use touch the way humans do, she said softly. For us, contact is rare. It means deep trust or deep intention. When you reached for me, I tried to interpret your meaning based on my own customs. I understand, he said. I would probably misread things from your culture too. She exhaled slowly, a controlled, centered breath. I am trying to learn, she added, her voice softer than before. To understand the human way of connection. Ethan nodded, unsure what to say to the sincerity in her tone. We will figure it out, he said. Both of us. The lights flickered again, less urgently this time, like a reminder rather than a threat. Saren took a single step closer, not touching him, simply narrowing the space so he could feel the calm in her presence. Her eyes lifted to his. Then tell me, she said quietly, what does it mean for a human when they offer warmth freely? Ethan met her gaze, steady and unforced. It means they care, he said. That is all. Saren held his eyes a moment longer, the hum of the stabilizer filling the silence between them with something gentle, something new. And in that still space, understanding began to form, fragile but real, like warmth blooming in a room that had finally stopped fading into the cold. The compartment had grown warmer by the minute, enough that the air no longer bit at Ethan's skin when he breathed. The hum of the stabilizers smoothed into a low, even vibration underfoot, a steady reassurance that the worst had passed. But the quiet that settled between Ethan and Saren felt different from the silence that had filled the room earlier. This one carried a gentler edge, like the moment after a storm when the world stops just long enough for people to listen to their own heartbeat. Saren moved first, testing her balance with careful steps across the narrow space. The faint luminescent pattern under her skin shimmered in soft pulses, each band of light warming in hue as her body temperature climbed closer to her natural state. Ethan watched from a respectful distance, arms folded loosely, ready to intervene if she wavered. She did not. Instead, she drew closer to him with a slow, measured grace. Your machines stabilize quickly, she said, her voice soft but clear. Humans build with a preference for resilience. Ethan smiled. We are surrounded by vacuum and radiation. Resilience is the only way the species keeps going. Saren tilted her head, slightly, as if filing that thought away. I am beginning to understand that your species survives by caring for one another, even in small ways. Ethan rubbed the back of his neck, a familiar gesture when he felt eyes lingering on him too long. I mean, we try. A small flicker of amusement touched her expression, subtle but unmistakable. You try, she echoed. And in trying, you keep each other alive. The stabilizer vent released a soft puff of warm air, brushing against them like a passing breath. Saren stepped close enough now that Ethan could feel the difference in her presence again, not from touch, but from the faint shift in the air around her. Her species radiated warmth when fully regulated, a gentle field of heat that brushed lightly against his skin like a warm current. She held his gaze with a sincerity that made Ethan's breath quiet in his chest. Ethan, she said, her tone careful, my misunderstanding earlier. I wish to address it properly. Ethan blinked. You do not have to. Really. I do, she insisted softly. It is our way to correct a misread through clarity, not with words alone. She lifted her hand slowly, giving him time to pull back if he wished. He did not. Her fingers hovered near the spot where he had touched her shoulder before, the point where misunderstanding had sparked. She did not touch him, only held her hand close enough that the warmth between them mingled. This distance, she said quietly, is how my people offer a gesture of understanding. Not intimacy, not assumption, just acknowledgement. Ethan felt the meaning settle, calm and steady. Thank you, he said, matching her stillness. She lowered her hand gently, the luminescent bands beneath her skin softening in color. You are honest, she said. Your intentions are clear. It eases the misunderstanding. Ethan exhaled slowly. I am glad. A faint shudder ran through the floor as the corridor systems outside powered through their restart cycle. The compartment lights brightened by a fraction, signaling a gradual return to stability. Saren glanced toward the sealed door, then back at him. The station is recovering, she said. But I find I do not mind this pause. It has allowed me to understand you better. Ethan felt a surprising warmth spread through him at the words. I could say the same. Another soft breath of warm air drifted from the vent above them, carrying the quiet promise that it would soon be safe to step back into the corridor. But for now, the small room held only their shared warmth, the steady hum beneath their feet, and the gentle unfolding of trust that neither of them had expected when the cold first closed in. The restart cycle continued its slow sweep through the station, each distant click and rising hum blending into a steady rhythm that felt almost like the breathing of something vast. The compartment lights held their warm glow, casting soft amber against the brushed metal walls, a quiet contrast to the cold red that had chased Ethan and Saren earlier. Saren stood near the sealed door, her posture steady, her breathing even. The luminescent strands beneath her skin pulsed gently, in sync with the recovered warmth of the room. She touched the panel lightly with her fingertips, testing the temperature. "The corridor beyond is warming," she said. "Not fully stable, but close." Ethan joined her, scanning the panel readout beside hers. "A few more minutes," he confirmed. "I do not want you stepping into anything below your oxygenated threshold." Her eyes flicked toward him, a subtle acknowledgement of his concern. "Your caution persists," she murmured. "It is reassuring." Ethan shrugged, though he felt the weight of her gaze. "Habit," he said again, though he knew it was more than that. She stepped back from the door and moved toward the center of the room, standing where the air vent released a gentle breath of warmth. The glow around her shoulders deepened, her natural radiance returning with every passing second. She looked calmer now, but not distant. Instead, she watched Ethan with an openness he had not seen before. "Earlier," she said, her voice soft and steady, "when you spoke about offering warmth as a sign of care, I have been thinking about that." Ethan leaned lightly against the console, giving her his attention. "What about it?" She clasped her hands in front of her, a gesture that seemed almost shy despite her composed demeanor. "My people do not share warmth casually. It is exchanged rarely, with purpose." She paused for a breath, letting the words settle. "But I have realized today that your intentions were not casual. They were simply human." Ethan nodded quietly. "Yes, that is a fair way to put it." Saren looked at her hands, then lifted her eyes back to him with a gentleness that surprised him. "I would like to understand that kind of warmth," she said. "Not to misread it, not to assign the wrong meaning, only to understand." Ethan felt a subtle shift inside him, like the careful turning of a gear that had waited a long time to move. "We can take it slow," he said. "There is no rush." She seemed relieved by the answer, though her expression remained composed. "Taking it slow," she repeated, tasting the phrase as if it were new to her. "Yes, that is acceptable." Another soft hum passed through the room as systems outside continued warming. Saren stepped a little closer, stopping at an arm's length, respecting the space yet acknowledging their shared understanding. "In my culture," she said quietly, "we have a gesture. It is not touch, but it is a form of closeness offered when one wishes to express gratitude without confusion." Ethan listened closely. "What gesture?" She lifted her hand, palm facing him, hovering a few inches from his chest. "A respectful distance, a symbolic nearness." She held it there, steady, her expression calm and sincere. "This," she said softly, "is my way of saying I trust your intentions." Ethan exhaled, the breath leaving him warm. Without fully thinking, but fully choosing, he mirrored the gesture, lifting his hand to hover near hers, the space between them filled with quiet meaning. Their palms never touched, but the warmth that rose in that small space felt real, felt intentional, felt understood. The lights brightened again, a soft signal that the corridor was nearly safe. But neither of them moved yet. The pause held, gentle and unhurried, as the hum of the station wrapped around them like a warm, breathing calm. The gentle stillness in the compartment lingered as the corridor systems completed their reboot cycle. A faint chime sounded through the intercom, low and steady, signaling that the hallway temperature had risen above the safety threshold. The amber lights softened, blending with the warm hum of machinery that filled the space like a quiet reassurance. Ethan lowered his hand from the mirrored gesture he had shared with Saren, though the warmth of that moment remained suspended in the small distance between them. Saren let her hand fall slowly to her side, her expression calm, thoughtful, almost contemplative. The luminescent lines beneath her skin glowed in smooth, steady pulses, no longer sharp from cold or strain, but balanced, regulated. Herself again. "The systems are recovering," Ethan said, glancing at the panel. "We should be able to step out soon." Saren looked toward the door, then back at him. "Before we do," she said softly, "I would like to ask you something." Her tone carried a weight that made Ethan straighten slightly. "Go ahead." She took a single step closer, not invading his space but bridging the quiet gap between them. "When humans offer warmth," she said, "you said it means care. But what does it mean when that warmth is accepted?" Ethan paused, surprised by the question. Accepted? Yes, she said. Not avoided. Not misunderstood. Not deflected. When it is received willingly. Ethan took a slow breath, letting the thought settle. It means trust, he said finally. Maybe connection. Maybe respect. Sometimes all of that at once. Saren absorbed his words with a focus that felt almost delicate. He could see the subtle shift in her posture, the way her shoulders eased, the way her breath deepened just a little. Then I understand more now, she said. Because I did not reject your warmth earlier. I did not even wish to. Ethan felt his pulse catch for a moment, brief but noticeable. I am glad, he said quietly. Her silver eyes met his, steady and unguarded. My people do not offer trust quickly, she continued. Our bonds form slowly, deliberately. But your presence, she searched for the right words, her voice gentler than before. Your presence does not disrupt me. It steadies me. Ethan did not respond immediately. He let the sincerity of her admission settle into the space between them. The lights flickered faintly as the corridor outside reached stable levels. A soft chime sounded again. Saren looked toward the door. The station signals readiness, she said. But something tells me you still have thoughts unfinished. Ethan almost smiled. Maybe just one. She turned fully toward him, waiting. You said your people form bonds slowly, he said. Humans do too. At least the meaningful ones. Saren seemed to breathe in those words, her expression softening further. Then we are not so different, she murmured. Not in the ways that matter. She approached the door panel, her hand hovering over the release control. But before activating it, she paused and looked back at him. Ethan, she said, her voice quiet but crystal clear. Earlier you offered warmth. This time may I offer something in return? Ethan's breath stilled. Of course, he said. She lifted her hand once more, hovering it near his chest, close enough that he could feel the faint radiant heat her species generated naturally. A gesture not of misunderstanding, but of intention. This, she said, is how my people express recognition. Not obligation. Recognition. Ethan mirrored the gesture without hesitation. Their palms hovered close, the warmth between them steady and shared. No misunderstanding. No confusion. Just a mutual acknowledgement that something had shifted gently, quietly, but undeniably between them. The station hummed softly around them. But for a moment, all Ethan felt was the warmth that did not need explanation. The corridor outside the compartment carried a new sound now. A soft flowing hiss as the ventilation systems reached full recovery. Warm air drifted beneath the sealed door, carrying the faint metallic scent of rebalanced oxygen. Ethan and Saren still stood close, their mirrored gesture lingering between them like a quiet promise neither of them rushed to break. When Saren finally lowered her hand, she did so slowly, as though releasing something fragile into the air. Ethan followed her movement, letting the space settle, warm and steady. We should step out, he said, his voice calm, almost reluctant to disturb the moment. The systems show all green. But Saren did not move toward the door immediately. Instead, she stepped closer to the panel and held her palm above the sensor, pausing just before the release. Her silver eyes flicked to his, searching, as if confirming something unspoken. Ethan, she said softly, before we return to the others, I must tell you something. Ethan straightened slightly, sensing the shift in her tone. What is it? She folded her hands together, the glow beneath her skin dimming into a thoughtful shimmer. When my people share recognition, we do so with intention, she said. It means we trust a person with our presence. But there is another form of acknowledgement, one that is rarely given. Ethan waited, breath steady. It is offered only when someone chooses to stand with another, she continued. Even when there is risk. Even when it is not required. Ethan felt the weight of her words settle in his chest. Saren, he said quietly, you do not owe me anything for what happened. She lifted her gaze fully to him, and for the first time he saw something like vulnerability beneath her calm exterior. It is not obligation, she said. It is recognition of a choice that mattered. Before he could reply, a soft tremor passed beneath their feet. Not dangerous, but noticeable, like a reminder from the station that their moment existed within a larger, shifting world. Ethan tapped the nearby panel. It is just the thermal plates adjusting, he said. But we should still check the junction ahead. Some areas might not be safe for you yet. Saren nodded, gathering herself, her expression smoothing back into composed readiness. She activated the door control, and the seal released with a gentle sigh, allowing a wave of warmer, well-circulated air to sweep into the compartment. The corridor lights glowed in soft golden tones, no longer harsh or flickering. Ethan stepped through first, scanning the path. The air carried the faint hum of reactivated systems, steady and predictable. Saren followed, her steps light but purposeful. The warmth of the corridor did not hinder her. Instead, her skin brightened with a soft radiance, pulsing in quiet waves that reflected the newly restored stability around them. They walked side by side, their pace unhurried. As they approached a branching junction, Ethan lifted a hand to check the overhead panel. "This route should lead us back to the central bay," he said. "Slowest warming section, but safest overall." Saren's eyes followed the flickering readout. "You monitor everything closely," she observed. "You place yourself between others and uncertainty without hesitation." Ethan shrugged gently. "Old habit." "No," she said quietly. "It is something else." He looked at her, waiting. She held his gaze, her expression open. "Your choices reveal the kind of human you are." He felt the warmth of her words settle deeper than he expected. "Then I hope that is a good thing," he replied. "It is," she said. "It is why I trust your presence beside me." For a brief moment, they stood together in the quiet junction, the golden lights reflecting in her silver eyes. And beneath the steady hum of the station, something in the air between them shifted, gentle, steady, certain, as if the warmth they had shared had begun to take root. The corridor stretched ahead in a long ribbon of soft gold light, each panel humming with renewed life as Ethan and Saren walked side by side. The atmosphere had warmed enough that the faint chill clinging to the walls finally faded, replaced by a gentle wave of circulating air that brushed lightly against their faces. Saren's steps were steady now, her balance flawless, her radiance restored to a calm glow that pulsed beneath her skin in slow, even rhythms. She moved with a quiet confidence that suggested her strength had fully returned, yet there was something else beneath her composed exterior, an awareness, sharpened by everything they had shared in the enclosed compartment. Ethan glanced at her briefly as they approached a bend in the corridor. The overhead lights reflected off her silver eyes, turning them into soft mirrors of the station's glow. "You are doing better," he said. She nodded. "Your station's warmth is returning. And yours as well." The comment carried a layered meaning he felt, but did not fully unpack. He let the moment linger as they turned the corner into a wider junction where the floor panels vibrated gently beneath their feet. The stabilization cycle had reached its final phase. A soft chime echoed through the hall, signaling that all main systems were in optimal condition. Ethan checked the wall console out of habit. The green indicators blinked steadily. "Everything looks normal," he said. "We can continue to the central bay." Saren paused beside him, her gaze fixed on the console but her thoughts clearly elsewhere. "Ethan," she said softly, "your people have many words for connection, trust, understanding, care. But my people do not divide them so precisely. To us, these ideas are woven together." Ethan turned to her, listening. "When we share warmth," she continued, "it is both a comfort and a declaration. It says we recognize what is present and what could be." Ethan felt his heartbeat shift subtly, a quiet pulse beneath the steady hum of the station. "And what do you recognize now?" She lifted her eyes, meeting his with a steadiness that felt like a truth unfolding. "I recognize that I misread your intentions once," she said, "and that now I understand them with clarity. But there is something else I must reveal to you." Ethan waited, his breath steady, though he felt a quiet intensity grow between them. Saren stepped closer, her voice a shade softer. "There is a reason I reacted so strongly when you touched my shoulder earlier," she said. "A reason beyond misunderstanding." Ethan's brow furrowed faintly. "What reason?" The luminescent lines beneath her skin brightened slightly, pulsing in a pattern that seemed almost like emotion translated into light. "My species," she said, "has a trait humans do not. We sense intention not only through words, but through warmth. When you reached for me, even though you did not mean it the way my people would, your care registered. It touched something within me I did not expect." Ethan's breath caught, just for a moment. Saren stepped even closer, the air between them warming. "The warmth you offered was not a mistake," she said. It revealed something true, something I had not allowed myself to feel before. Ethan opened his mouth to speak, but her next words came gently, certain, and unhurried. It revealed that my connection to you is not simply understanding. The corridor's hum softened, as if the entire station paused to listen. It is something deeper. Saren held his gaze, her voice steady but filled with quiet resonance. Ethan, I realized it in that moment. And I realize it even more now. She lifted her hand, slowly, deliberately, hovering it near his heart as she had before, but this time with a different intention entirely. My people call this acknowledgement, she whispered. But humans have another word for it. Ethan's pulse thudded softly beneath her stillness. You feel it too, she said. Do you not? The air between them warmed, without touch, without misreading. Only quiet truth unfolding in the glow of the restored corridor. The corridor around them held its warm golden glow, steady now, no longer flickering or trembling. The station had fully recovered, every system humming with a calm precision that wrapped the hall in a quiet sense of balance. Yet the air between Ethan and Saren felt charged in a different way, subtle and gentle, like a current that moved without sound. Saren's hand hovered near his chest, her palm radiating a soft heat that blended with the warmth of the corridor. Her gaze held his with a clarity that made the rest of the station seem to fall away. Ethan's breath steadied, though he felt the weight of the moment settle with a quiet significance. Saren, he said, his voice low but steady, I feel something too. I just did not know if I should say it. Her expression softened, a small shift of light beneath her skin. Humans fear speaking truths when they are fragile, she murmured. My people do also. But this feels like a truth that wants to be spoken. Ethan let the words sink into him, warm and certain. The hum of the ventilation system swept gently along the corridor, carrying with it a mild current of air that brushed past them like a soft reminder of the world continuing around them. Saren lowered her hand slightly, but not all the way. She kept it near enough that he could feel her warmth even without contact. Ethan, she said, her voice a whisper of calm resonance. You chose to help me without hesitation. You offered warmth without intention, yet with sincerity. My people value sincerity more than any gesture. Ethan met her gaze, steady and unflinching. I meant every action, he said. None of it was obligation. She breathed softly, the glow beneath her skin warming into a gentle pulse. Then you understand, she said. What I sensed. What I now feel with clarity. Ethan nodded slowly. Yes, he said. I understand. For a long moment, they simply stood there, the hum of machinery filling the quiet space around them. No urgency, no fear, no misunderstanding. Only a shared calm that settled between their breaths. Saren's eyes reflected the corridor lights like polished silver. In my culture, she said gently, there is a final gesture reserved for moments of true recognition. It is not romantic. It is not binding. It is simply truth offered without expectation. Ethan leaned slightly closer, not moving to touch her, simply giving the moment room to breathe. Show me, he said. Saren lifted both hands, palms open, hovering at the height of his shoulders, leaving a respectful distance between them. Her voice softened. This gesture means, I see you as you are, and I do not turn away. Ethan exhaled slowly, feeling something warm bloom beneath his ribs. He mirrored her gesture, raising his hands to hover near her shoulders, their warmth meeting in the narrow space between. The glow beneath her skin brightened faintly, like a rising heartbeat. Then this is my answer, he said. Saren's breathing grew quiet, steadier, filled with a calm certainty. Ethan, she whispered, this moment, it will stay with me. With me too, he replied. The corridor lights brightened. One last time, signaling full station stability. A gentle chime drifted through the air, but neither of them moved immediately. Instead, they let the silence settle, warm and meaningful, carrying the unspoken truth that had finally found its voice. In the quiet space between their mirrored hands, something deeper than misunderstanding or fear took root. A connection not defined by species or custom, but by the simple, steady act of choosing one another in a moment that needed no explanation.